Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get ready to start the meeting. The town board had an executive session and no votes were taken. So before we begin our public hearing, let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's do things a little out of order. Can we have roll call, please?
Supervisor Fleming?
Present.
Councilman Denbaum?
Present.
Councilwoman McGlasson?
Present.
Councilman Houston?
Here.
Councilman Ruthven?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing about the demolition of buildings at 238-240 Route 52 in Kent Lakes, New York. I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have before us for the public hearing two orders to remedy violations that were written by our building inspector, Bill Walters. Bill, do you want to come up and talk about the...
Good evening, Madam Supervisor, Town Board. We have two remedy orders for those two buildings at 238, 240 Route 52. There's two separate parcels that are there. They've been going downhill for a number of years now. They finally got to a point where I could take some type of legal action to have those buildings removed, which is the remedy order that we sent to you back in 28th of September, I think it was.
9th,
Huh?
September 9th.
Okay. With that, those remedy orders were sent out to the property owners. They signed one and didn't sign the other one. I got a return back from the Postal Service. And then we brought it to you for corrective actions to go forward to have those buildings removed since they are condemned. They're unfit for human occupancy. They are unsafe. The roof is collapsing in on one building, and the main frame supports in the back of the other one are all rotted away and giving way. So it's time for those buildings to go. With that, we set a hearing for tonight. It's my understanding that there's been a little glitch, and so we're moving forward to get those corrected. It's the lot was up for auction, and it's been sold. So the parties that we serve, I don't know where it stands.
Well, the sale hasn't been consummated yet. So
Okay.
we established communication with both the owner's attorney and the buyer's attorney today. So we may be able to work something out with them without the town having to take corrective action. But in the meantime, the town board is going to go ahead with the hearing today and not close it, continue it for another day so that parties can be heard and maybe the parties can work something out.
Okay. We've gone out and we've we went out to bid for contractors, and we submitted those proposals to the board so you guys can see what those costs would be. And we've contacted NYSEC and the telephone company, and we can go in and have those connections removed from the building right away as soon as we're ready to have the buildings removed. So that's where we stand.
Okay. Does anybody want to be heard?
Nope.
Does anybody in the audience want to be heard?
I just want to thank Building Inspector Walters and moving forward this, and hopefully this glitch gets resolved. I know beautification, the Lake Carmel Park District, and many other groups and residents have concerned about those shacks, the unwelcome signs as you come into Kent, and I know his department's attempting to address some of these eyesores and stuff, and hopefully we can get this rocking and rolling in one way or the other, but get those shacks down, and I thank you for that.
No problem. I want to thank my staff for doing a great job. Jack Kier's done he's done all the work getting a hold of the contractors, getting the bids in and stuff like that. So Jack's been doing a great job helping me assist in these vacant buildings, so.
Good.
All right, well, if nobody else wants to be heard, I make a motion to adjourn the public hearing to December 21st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is we have our 2020 audit presentation, and I invite Robert Danielle from PKF O'Connor Davies.
Okay, thank you and good evening. Thank you for having me present the audit results for the town of Kent for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2020. Before I begin, I just wanted to thank Supervisor Fleming, the finance folks, Julia, Kelly, and the entire business office again for their professionalism and really being available throughout the entire audit process while dealing with the day-to-day operations. So I put together a PowerPoint rather than go through a 100-page audit report. There's a lot of information. I'm going to skip through some, but hopefully I'll hit on the highlights. So quickly, we'll go through a summary overview of the audit. Then we'll spend a little time in the general fund, your operating results compared to your budget. Same thing for your highway fund, which is another major fund of the town. And then we'll close with some other considerations in the overall financial health of the town. Page 3, again, included in our auditor's report is what we call the independent auditor's report on the basic financial statements. We have issued what is termed an unmodified opinion. Unmodified opinion is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that an entity can receive, and it basically states that the financial statements present fairly the financial results of the town at a specific point in time as of December 31st, 2020, and in accordance with the accounting standards. One thing that is missing in the report is the library. That audit was not complete, so it's a component unit of the town. So for that purpose, we had to issue what is termed an adverse opinion. When we went final with this report, which was in October, that audit was not complete. So again, we'll follow up with that next year. Also included in your packet was what we call our required communications to you folks. And we also audit the town justice court and issue a separate report. Again, I'm happy to report that we did have a couple of comments, but nothing rose to the level that we call material weakness or significant deficiency. We didn't pass on any journal entries. Anything we proposed was recorded by the finance folks. Page 4. Page 4 quickly is your general fund. You can see that there are 4 columns. The first column is your original budget, and that's what the town board approved back in the winter of 2019. Again, from a high level, your aggregate revenues were a little over $10.2 million. Expenditures of a little over $10.2 million, representing almost a break even. And then you factor in transfers to other funds, mainly to your highway fund and your capital projects fund to do your capital activities. And you come down to that bracketed $528,000 net change in fund balance, and that's what the amount that the town used of its own resources from 2019 fund balance to balance the budget, and thus provide a form of property tax relief. So if everything went according to plan, you would have expected to utilize that $528,000. Middle column is your final budget. There are very little changes during the year. And the third column is what actually happened. You can see from an actual standpoint, your revenues came in just a little under. On a $10 million budget, your revenues were short by $90,000. I would consider that break even. But you had some savings on the expenditure side, $445,000. Most of that, or some of that, was due to COVID. You factor in your transfers and you come down to that net change in fund balance, the negative $208,000, where you had expenditures that actually exceeded revenues. So you subtract that from your fund balance of a little over $5 million, and you end the year with $4.8 million. Page 5 is just a 5-year look back of that fund balance. If we focus on the 2020 column, you can see at the bottom, there's your $4.8 million. That is divided into 4 to 5 categories. I'm not going to get into the categories, but the town did commit some funds for police purposes. That is new, about $153,000. And where it says subsequent years expenditures, you are utilizing $273,000 to balance the current budget year in the 2021 budget, and again, provide a form of property tax relief. So again, as I mentioned, your fund balance did go down about $200,000. We like to compare way at the bottom your unassigned fund balance, which is the free and clear fund balance, to your 2021 adopted budget, and your fund balance is 33% of your 2021 budget. So the Government Finance Officers Association gives you recommendations, and they say you should have 2 months of your expenditures in what they call a reserves. You do the calculation, you're almost double of what they considered. So very, very good standing in the general fund. And then page 6, how did you get there? Just again, these are your revenues. Again, all the way to the right, I said you fell short about $90,000. You can see in the area of departmental income, you fell short of the budget of $123,000. And that was really your parks and rec events, you know, your baseball, soccer programs. A lot of it was canceled due to COVID. So although you see a decline on the revenue side, you also see a decline on the expenditure side because obviously you didn't have to fulfill those programs. The other item is what we call use of money and property, another fancy word for interest earnings, and obviously interest earnings are at an all-time low. So you can see you didn't reach your target there by almost $40,000. Fines and forfeitures, again, these are your courts. The courts were closed probably about 3 months out of the year. So you can see those targets weren't met by about approximately $50,000 or so. The good news is the state aid, and that's your mortgage tax. Mortgage tax seems to be, because the interest rates are low, a lot of people are buying homes, refinancing, so you actually exceeded your budget by $70,000. So the net effect of those 4 large items is where you come up with your overall shortfall there. Page 7, I just included for a look back of, again, 3 to 4 of your major categories over the past 5 years. The only want to note is your real property taxes. The town has not exceeded the property tax cap over the past 5 years. In fact, it hasn't exceeded the cap since it was enacted back in 2011. So over the past 10 years, you haven't exceeded the cap. And page 8 is the expenditure side. You can see, as I mentioned, you had almost $450,000 savings on the expenditure side, almost in all categories, most notably in what we call general government support, which is your administrative cost. You had less central garage, contractual expenses. You didn't have to pay the court piece to the state. Obviously, the revenue was down, the expenses down. Page 9, again, is taking those 7 or 8 categories, giving you a 5-year look back. You can see 2020 is down, again, mostly due to COVID. Your general support is down about $150,000. Your police is probably equal to 2019. There were slight increases in the police retirement system rates, combined with some overtime increases. I believe there was a vacant position that wasn't filled. The other items are pretty consistent with 2019. And then the transfers category, that's going to vary based on what capital projects that the town wants to do on an annual basis. Page 10, we did the same thing for the highway, which is another major fund. The highway had a really good year in 2020. You can see revenues exceeded the budget by $150,000. And you had expenditure savings to the tune of $315,000. So you take your revenues, subtract your expenses, and you came down with revenues that exceeded expenditures by almost $465,000. You're able to add that to the highways fund balance, and you end the year with $555,000 in fund balance. Again, page 11 is a 5-year look back of the highway. You can see that in 18 and 19, the highway fund was struggling. Good results in 2020 that brought that fund balance up to over $555,000, of which almost $460,000 is free and clear, what we call unassigned. And again, quickly on page 12, how did you get there in the highway fund? Category sale of property and compensation for loss. You did have an auction, or you did sell some old equipment in 2020 that generated $115,000 more than you anticipated. And you had expenditure savings across the board again, obviously less Due to the winter, less snow removal, less overtime, less equipment purchases in 2020 compared to 2019. Page 13, again, is just a 5-year look back at those same categories. You can see that you haven't raised property taxes in the highway fund over the past 5 years. And you did make some transfers in 18 and 19 to cover some shortfalls, but as I mentioned, you had a pretty good year in 2020, and those results are back to normal. As far as the bottom, the expenditure side, you can see that you had expenditure savings across the board, and again, as I mentioned, some of it is COVID related, and some of it is just less overtime during the year. Page 14, quickly, you do operate what we call a special districts fund. You have special districts for your fire protection, your parks, your water, your sanitation, and your sewer districts. Again, at the bottom is a 5-year look back. You can see that in 2020, that's down about $300,000. You did have some large purchases, Lake Carmel Sanitation District. You bought a garbage truck that was funded from fund balance, about $237,000. And also the Park District reflected expenditures that exceeded revenues by about $70,000. And that's what created that $300,000 shortfall or less compared to 2019. Page 15, also you do operate a capital projects fund. You currently have 16 active projects. The fund does show a deficit of $3 million, but you do have what we call a short-term bond anticipation note of $3 million that supports those projects. Again, that's a short-term note, and right now the interest rates are favorable. I believe that note is 1.25%. And then at the bottom of page 15, you have one bond outstanding, $525,000. That's going to be paid over the next 2 years. If you look at the second bullet on page 15, your debt service requirements for next year, for the current year, for 2021, $395,000, for 22, $382,000, and then that drops off to $59,000 in 2023, and that's probably the time you're going to convert those short-term bond anticipation notes into a bond, so you'll be pretty much level off to where you were. And then just in closing on page 16, again, the town had a great year. The overall financial health could be credited to you folks, the town board and administration. As I mentioned, you have remained within the property tax cap since it was enacted back in 2011. And why is all that important? Because it's going to assist you when you do your tax levy on an annual basis. It's going to improve your cash flow. Currently, you have a AA2 bond rating, which is a good bond rating from Moody's. When you do convert that short-term bond anticipation note into a bond, you should be able to get favorable interest rates because of the good standing you are in. And to have that money in fund balance, you can fund unexpected contingent expenditures, or in the case of last year where the state cut back and you had some revenue shortfalls. So it's kind of a rainy day fund type thing. Again, the town has a strong finance department. Everyone is very cooperative. I'm happy to report that the town is receiving $1.3 million in what we call ARPA funds, America Rescue Plan funding. I believe the town received 50% already. There is a calculation that the town needs to do by April 30th. They call it a revenue loss calculation. If you do that calculation, you compare it to some benchmarks in 19. If you determine that you do have a revenue loss, you're able to take that in as general revenue to the extent of the loss. If not, you can use that funding for water projects, sewer projects, broadband infrastructure. But I could certainly get someone involved to help you out on how you can spend that money.
Great.
So again, pretty good year compared to 19, given COVID and everything that happened.
Thank you. Actually, we have on the agenda tonight talking about the ARPA money
Oh, good.
and what we want how to move ahead with that. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have two questions. Was there a reason why the library's audit wasn't complete?
We are not the auditors for the library, so we requested that report, and I think it was just finalized. Last I spoke maybe in November, and it still wasn't finalized.
Okay.
It hasn't come in yet.
Correct me if I'm wrong, up here, but didn't we have an issue when we were talking about library budget that they were back on their audits or something? We weren't getting them in a timely fashion, or is this the first time we've missed the library audit?
It was the same last year, they were late.
And in theory, could the town board authorize you guys to engage in the audit of the library as well?
Yeah, I could definitely look into that, sure, I could give them a call.
Okay. And then I guess my second question, a little more rosy question. So we have 3 unassigned, 3.45 million unassigned fund balance.
Yes,
So $3.5 million, and then we would, to be compliant with all the recommendations, we would need to have how much in the fund at any given time?
they recommend that you have, you're on your budget is about $10.5 million for argument's sake. They say you should have in those reserves 2 months, 3 months worth of your expenses. If you do the math, it's probably $2 to $3 million.
$2 to $3 million.
So you're well above.
So we're well above that.
Yeah.
And then the other money sitting in the fund balance, I mean, I don't know if you're the best person to speak as just an auditor, but I mean, does it have a lot of value sitting there? I mean, it's well past the reserve. We're not getting, are we getting a tremendous amount of interest on it?
Yeah, that money would be invested as you would in any fund. It allows you to, if you need to purchase a vehicle, and it allows you to use fund balance
Sure.
to cover that and not raise taxes.
And, so we could make an expenditure of fund balances, a pretty significant expenditure, and still be well above the recommended buffer that we would need in our account.
Yes, but you have to look forward as well.
Sure.
You may not have, good years.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Okay.
It's a rainy day fund, yeah, so to speak.
Sure. All right, thank you.
Question, I guess maybe it's to you, Leah. The paving of Ryan's Park, the capital projects that was in the budget, in the capital budget, is that all included in this?
Well, it's part of the 410 that was transferred over to the capital fund, so it's sitting in the capital fund, ready to be spent.
Okay.
For whatever was transferred.
But that's not part of the other, the rainy day fund, whatever?
It's already out of that.
Okay, good.
Yes, it's moved over to a capital project fund.
Because they're almost finished with the phase 1 of the paving at Ryan's. So.
Anybody else?
Good job.
Does
Well done.
anybody in the, does any member of the public have a question? All right, well, thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. Yulia, you didn't have, you're waiting for, okay. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is more good news. So I invite Kieran Boyle of Brown & Brown up to the microphone because we have our workers' comp insurance renewal proposal, and Kieran is going to talk to us about it.
Thanks, everyone, for allowing me to come speak to the board tonight. It's good to see everyone in person again.
Yeah.
And thank you, Supervisor Fleming, for using the term good news and insurance in the same sentence. It's rare I hear that. But I do come bearing good news. So the workers' compensation coverage, which is due to renew on January 1st, we are coming off of a 2-year policy term with PERMA. And we've been with PERMA for 2 years, starting January 1st, 2020. We were with Comp Alliance prior to that. So this year we secured options from both providers, which you will note on page 10 of our proposal. Each provider gave us a 1- and 2-year policy term option. We are of the same opinion as we were in 2020 in that we think a 2-year policy term is advantageous to take because it gives you a discounted premium in year 1. And year 2 premium is subject to your individual claims experience. So if you perform well, then you get even more of a discounted premium in year 2. Even if you have high loss experience in year 2, the worst case scenario is that your funding in year 2 will be the same as year 1. And I'm referencing option number 3 with PERMA. And you could see the numbers, both providers we do business with. And We like them both. They both have very good risk management, loss control training. Their rates are long-term stability, and there's good administration in place on the TPA side of things. So PERMA, as you can see, is still more cost advantageous than Comp Alliance. So if we look at option number 3, if you took another 2-year policy term from PERMA, you could save in year 1 roughly 10% or $20,000. And in year 2, it would be similar. So if you have really bad claims and a loss ratio that exceeds 60% in year 2, worst case scenario, you'll have the same funding contribution as year 1. So over a 2-year period, you could cumulatively save roughly 20% or $40,000 to $50,000 in premium. And that would be our recommendation. If there was issues with services or training or claims management, we might be having a different discussion, but over the past 2 years, we feel that things have been going well with PERMA, and we don't see any reason why we disrupt that.
Actually, PERMA's been very easy to work with. We've had a lot of success with PERMA. We were quite pleased to make the change. Does anybody have any questions for Kieran?
Runs a good ship, Tom makes my comment.
Thank you.
Comes from a great family, too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Saving money.
Yeah, and I mean, when you see what the expiring policy was, we saved money originally by doing the 2-year back in 2020.
2020, yes.
Yeah.
And there were some claims that occurred in 2020, but similar to this offering, your year 2 premium for the expiring 2021 was flat. So even though there were some claims on the record and your loss ratio exceeded a certain level, they kept funding flat. And thankfully, workers' comp is one of the few lines of coverage in the current marketplace where the rates are actually, they're continuing to go down. So providers like PERMA and Comp Alliance are accounting for that by offering discounted rates to their policyholders. And everybody's different. Some people have a lot more claims and a lot more activity than others, but the frequency is not an issue for the town, so that's a good thing.
And we did do the 2-year payment to save, to get the discount.
2% discount, correct, yep.
Right,
Which you would get year over year.
yeah. So yeah, it was a good use of insurance and good news in the same sentence.
Sure, yes, we like that.
Does anybody have,
I'm good with that.
yeah, so, I mean, I think we should do the 2-year again with PERMA.
Yes.
That seems to obviously make sense.
The best deal we can get.
It's the best deal we can get, and as I said to Jamie, and I'll say to Chris, we're doing you guys a big favor for next year's budget.
What'd you say? You said louder.
We're doing the future board a big favor. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Kieran.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
And,
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
all right, so we have a resolution. I don't think we should wait till the next meeting for this. I think it's a no-brainer.
Do we have the numbers? I mean, I know we have them, but all in one place. Oh. I guess I can go. We'll see what happens. I'd like to
Well,
make a
can we
motion.
just say PERMA, I mean, option 3, and not to exceed 379?
All right, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution regarding the insurance renewal of the town of Kent, whereas the town's workers' compensation insurance policy is in need of renewal, and whereas the town board is in receipt of an insurance proposal for the 2022-2023 year from Brown & Brown Insurance, and whereas the proposal details the cost of renewal of the workers' compensation insurance policy, a copy of which proposal is annexed hereto and incorporated by reference herein. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Kent approves and accepts a proposal from Brown & Brown Insurance to renew its workers' compensation policy for the years 2022 to 2023, and we're going to do option
2022 to 2024.
2022-2024, sorry, it's option 3 with PERMA, and it is
Not to exceed.
not to exceed $379,248.00. Be it further resolved, the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary to give effect to this resolution, consistent with the terms hereof, all in a form satisfactory to the supervisor and town attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is the American Rescue Plan Act funding. Do you want to come up? I invite Yuli Kelly, our Director of Finance.
Good evening. I don't have too much more to say than what Rob mentioned already. But as you have seen and as we've heard, it's an ever-evolving thing. There's new things coming out almost every month on what the allowable activities will be for the ARPA money. I think they're talking of expanding the term, infrastructure to include more than just the water and sewer infrastructure. So we really don't know what it will end up being. The only thing we are going to be doing at this point is doing the revenue loss calculation. So whatever that will come out to be will be what we get to keep for now. But as far as spending on actual projects, the only possible area of spending that I was talking to some of my colleagues about is doing a town-wide septic renovation, which would be like a town-wide offer. We don't have water, a central water system. We don't have a central sewer system. The third infrastructure is the broadband improvement, so that's the only other area. But if they do change the allowable activities to include a broader spectrum of infrastructure, then we might have a possibility of spending the money. For now, the money's sitting in a separate fund. Whatever we don't spend, we would have to return to the Treasury.
And we have until 2024
Yeah.
to spend the money. Unfortunately, the first thing I think that everybody thinks of in terms of what we could use this kind of money, and especially in light of the fact that we basically took out a big highway bond to improve the roads, is wouldn't it be great if we could use this for roads? But we cannot under the current terms. It
Not
really is
currently.
it's just water and sewer and broadband. And since we don't have town-wide water and sewer, it kind of puts us in a quandary about where this money.
So that was my question. It doesn't count for the water districts or the sewer district. It has to be town-wide in order to qualify?
It has to be town-wide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Couple of points.
You go, Bill.
Am I okay? Couple of points on that. I started to do some research with the septic issues, and in a particular area, but I think some of the lake communities in the entire town might fall into a possible septic issue. I know Lake Carmel has some issues over the past. And the other thing is, and maybe Bill Walters can correct me, but I remember, I think, when they planned this complex, there was supposed to be a second well at Town Hall here, and they didn't do it for maybe it was budget cutting or whatever, but I don't know if that is needed. I don't think we're going to put another building up over here now. But at one point, there was a plan for 2 wells, if I recall, and they didn't. But that's 2 things for the future. There is some, septic issues in the lake communities and needs more further review, but some of the data that I got was a wake-up call. The money's not enough for a sewer district or anything like that, but maybe something similar or expanded to what the DEP has done over past years, because our lakes need help too, and we're a town of lakes, so maybe something environmentally could be done. I don't know. Throwing that out.
So we can't do district-wide, right? It has to be town-wide, whatever improvements.
Yeah, I'll look into that, I'm not sure. The rules are changing monthly.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, just, and how much money do we have sitting in the bank? Or in the back?
600.
670,
64. Yeah.
674,000.
Okay. Because I don't know if a way to get around it is just to eliminate the water districts, make it town-wide so that you can't, we're not offering water town-wide, but we'll just pay it town-wide like a town expense and then use that $600,000 to just completely renovate the water system. Seems
That's not gonna work.
Yeah.
okay. Well, if it's we have to pay water. We pay repairs every year on those water districts over and over and over and over again, right? And if all of a sudden you say I have $700,000 to basically renovate the whole system and it won't cost the town taxpayers a dime, and we just say okay, there's no water district, it's just a town liability now, and the liability would be very small because you'd have brand new stuff, so there'd be very little maintenance and repairs the next 10 years.
Well, I just think the concept of having people pay for something they don't receive.
But they wouldn't be paying for it in the sense that all the infrastructure would be paid out of this fund. There'd be not a lot of repairs or maintenance to do in the future. And you'd still have people pay on a metered basis. If you're in the sewer district right now and you don't have a sewer line hookup, right, you're not actually taking in water, you don't pay based on your meter, right? So, yeah, listen, it's just an idea, but you don't have to. You could take on, as far as I understand it, the town could take on any district it wants. Say, oh, okay, we're going to put up lighting up town roads. We don't have to create a lighting district if we don't want to. We can just put up lighting on town roads. Now, people create the lighting district because they want to make it fair and they want to make it prorated, right? But in this instance, we have a pot of money sitting there to use only if the district is town-wide.
Right, but what I'm saying is we have this big pot of money, and both water districts are pretty small.
Very small.
So you would be using this big pot of money to say to these people in the water district, which would be wonderful for them, you don't have to pay anymore. But you're getting a service that we're not delivering to the rest of the town.
But the option is either give some of our town residents a better system or send the money back to the president and Congress, which is going to, create
Right, but I mean,
all sorts of fun projects.
but I
I'm sure
think
they have lined up.
I think what everybody is anticipating, since this has, I don't know if everybody kind of saw how they were dealing with this when the money first came out. It seems like it is loosening up, and we have.
were just talking about it. I think there are people, the localities and the states are lobbying to make the changes to allowable activities.
Right, because even the
because
reporting,
They don't want to send that.
right, even the,
It's evolving.
even the reporting has expanded, and it was supposed to be October, and now it's moved off, because I think everybody realizes that these aren't categories that kind of semi-rural, towns really can benefit from this spending, but there are other things that we could use the money for, and if the money's allocated anyway, why not let us spend it on it? So, I think I wanted to at least kind of start the discussion, but I think it probably makes sense to see what's coming down the road. I think.
I think municipalities throughout New York State and probably the nation that built water districts over 50, 60, 70 years ago. I look at the ones in Kent right now, their infrastructure, those pipes need replacing. The town of Carmel, just in the Hamlet Water District, millions and millions of dollars are going to be needed. So I'm hoping that that does change and it is evolved, because people around here aren't going to be able to afford, and I know we're getting pipes exploding. Jamie sees that all the time and gets those calls, and for some reason I get the beeps too. But it's going to be a major thing that I don't think rescue is going to rescue everybody. It's going to be so expensive, but all these old pipes, and some of them are probably lead, that need replacing, it's going to be costly.
So, I agree. I think we should hold back on any expenditure on this until we know what the changes are going to be. And to Paul's point, Paul, I think it's not enough to do our water districts, to be honest with you. I think a total redo of our water districts is it's just not enough, you know?
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm just looking for any way to not
But
send the money
I
back
think
to
holding back, I think that is should be our main focus. If it gets to that point where that's where the money could go to, because they do need a lot of help. Just touching back on Councilman Eustis's points, it couldn't be used for a municipal well here at the town hall, could it? I don't think that's a,
Yeah, I mean, I read the whole, the brochure, the pamphlet they have on the website. I didn't really see anything of that nature.
yeah. And again, you're only talking to drill a well, what are we talking, $20,000? It's still just a small tip in the bucket. But I would like to go back to what you mentioned earlier about possibly a septic program. Now, I don't think we could restrict it just to the lake districts. It'd have to be a town-wide program if we offered something like that. And that may be an option if things don't change where we can use it for something else. That may be a good expenditure of this money to offer an incentive program for people to get some septic repair. The county used to have a
Yes.
DEP-funded septic repair program years ago, and I think a lot of people in Kent actually took advantage of it, or some did at least. And if we could do something similar to that and kind of follow that framework, that may be a good use of
Right,
the
and
money.
maybe coordinate with the county or DEP, DEC to do something like that. And I think, I mean,
I think that would help our lakes
Yeah.
and our community. It could be town-wide, we are a town of lakes, but, my initial investigation, just in the Lake Carmel Park District, and looking at the repairs and what wasn't closed out and some of the issues, petroleum issues, that might be something to follow up, because, who's going to run it is another story, do it. But maybe some of the other towns, we might be able to make them, a major program here. But you're going to see the lake communities, the old-time homes that are on a quarter acre or half an acre, specifically the lake communities that were converted, have some issues.
We're already seeing it. It's already an issue.
all right, I mean, this is going to be an ongoing conversation, but I think it had to at least start tonight so that we can really look at what our options are and what the needs are in the town. Thank you. Anyone else have any comment about it? Okay. Thank you, Yulia. Thank you, Robert. Okay, the next item is code enforcement. We received a order to remedy a violation that was written by our code enforcer on the 13th of September, tax map 33.66-2-3 for rubbish and debris. And there are pictures, well, there's a picture of the debris.
One picture?
Yeah, we got a picture. There it is. It was not corrected. The code enforcer contacted 3 companies, F.I. Adams, AAA Carding, and Suburban Carding. He only got a quote from F.I. Adams for $650 to remove the brush and roots as per the photo. So I recommend we take his recommendation and hire F.I. Adams. Anybody?
I turned the heat up too much in here. Apparently people are sweating now.
Yes, it is a little.
It's just getting nice over here now.
Yeah, but you're wearing short sleeves. Okay.
We good?
Yes. I make a resolution authorizing a correction of a violation, acceptance of proposal, and charge to property owners of 17 Briarcliff Road. Whereas the code enforcement officer of the town of Kent issued an order to remedy a violation dated September 13th, 2021, the order to remedy, directing the owner to remove rubbish from the exterior of the property identified as 17 Briarcliff Road, Kent, New York, the property. And whereas the order to remedy directs the owner to correct the violation or respond to the code enforcement office within 10 days. And to date, the owner of the property has not responded or corrected the violations. And whereas pursuant to Chapter 55A of the Town Code of the Town of Kent regarding property maintenance, upon the failure of any owner to comply, the building inspector is authorized to correct a violation subject to the approval of the town board, and the town board wishes to authorize the building inspector to correct the violation. And whereas consistent with the town's procurement policy, the town of Kent requested 3 written proposals from contractors to correct the violation of the property and received 1 proposal in response with the sole and therefore lowest proposal from F.I. Adams, Inc. in the amount of $650. A copy of said proposal is annexed here too and incorporated by reference. And now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Kent hereby accepts the bid of F.I. Adams, Inc. for the correction of the violation at a cost not to exceed $650, and further resolved that the actual cost of the correction of the violation plus the accrued legal rate of interest from the date of completion of the work shall be charged to the property owner by the town in accordance with Chapter 55A-12B. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item is the agreement between Putnam County and the town of Kent for a outreach worker for residents of the town over the age of 60 years old. This is a yearly contract that we sign with the county. I don't believe that the rate has changed since, at least since I've been in office. It's $2,500 a year, and the agreement would be effective the 1st of January. Anybody have any?
Yeah, I would just recommend as you get into the new year, to have a representative from Aging just come to a meeting and explain some of the services they're doing. Our Kent seniors haven't had a home in close to 2 years now, meeting place. They're still looking, and we have a lot of people that are isolated, and hopefully we can, as this contract starts to go on, just to get the word out and broadcast some things, put them on TV and stuff, and help people. My opinion.
Anybody else? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution to approve intermunicipal agreement for outreach worker, whereas pursuant to New York State General Municipal Law, Article 5-G, local governments are authorized to enter into municipal cooperation agreements, and whereas the town of Kent wishes to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the county of Putnam to provide an outreach worker to seek out and assist residents of the town who are over the age of 60 years in exchange for the sum of $2,500 as set forth in the proposed agreement attached hereto and hereby made a part hereof. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby approves the attached intermunicipal agreement and the payment of the sum of $2,500 in exchange for the outreach worker, and be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Kent authorizes the town supervisor to execute the attached agreement and any documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. I make this motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a mining proposal submitted by Councilman Denbaum, so I will let Councilman Denbaum handle this.
Oh, hello. So I just put, I think the last meeting we kind of discussed, I would go back through my notes and find some of the original language I had put together briefly. It looks like, Councilman Ruthven down there has been working together, redlining, preparing questions for the experts that we hired to go back to them with comments and questions to regenerate a draft and figure out the direction the board wants to go with the last, with the presentation that they had here, 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And so by that time I won't be here anymore. I know, very sad. So I just figured I would put this out there and give my thoughts on it to, help in any way that the next board, wrestle with it. So as far as I understand it, Chapter 63 deals with soil removal, and that there's nothing in the town code that authorizes mining in any way, okay? So 63 soil removal, and in addition, there's nothing in the town code that authorizes permits or anything for mining. So, and if you look at Chapter 63, which is the soil removal law, it vests in the town board a significant amount of power. It actually gives them the power to go through the permitting and approval process. And so I think what happened here, as best as I can reconstruct it from the site, was that because the soil removal or mining, or call it what you will, occurred along with a site plan, that the approvals got wrapped up into the site plans. Okay, you want to do X, Y, and Z, present a site plan, have all the engineers, have everybody come out and do it, and authorize it that way. It never came through Chapter 63 of the town code to get a permit for soil removal. So, if the town board decides to authorize some sort of mining, right, then they need to go forward and work with the expert and go through that long piece of legislation that was proposed. However, if they don't want to do that and they want to prohibit mining and maybe get a tighter grasp on soil removal, I would suggest just making it clear, and it doesn't have to be my language, but making it clear that any permits for soil removal or any soil removal needs to be governed by Chapter 63 of the town code, and that Chapter 77, which deals with zoning and planning and site board approval, has no governing provisions over soil removal. So therefore, you could not use the site plan process, the planning board review process, to answer your soil removal questions. And then I also think I used the definition of mining that the experts provided to us, and I just took that and said, okay, mining shall be defined as, I think I made a tweak or two, and then said, no permit shall be issued for mining. So essentially, I outlined how to prohibit mining and re-cabin and secure any soil removal permits back in Chapter 63, which requires town board approval. Is that the answer? I don't know. I've, been promoting this solution for a while, but I know I won't be here when it gets across the finish line. And I just think as Chris and the experts go through, this is where I think it stands in the realm of where we are. You have these two separate questions, mining and soil removal, and I think you have what happened is, I best can understand it, is that although we had protections and laws in place against soil removal, that because they were associated with a site plan, those protections really didn't come in place, and the protections were left up to our planning board engineer and the planning board in general, and that's where I think the process broke down. So that would be my proposal, or at least to be kind of put in when you move forward, Chris, and I wish you all the best luck in doing so. I know you're getting more comments and reaching out, and you've been on it from the beginning, so I'm sure you'll do a great job, but these are the two things that kept poking around in my brain, and I figured I would get it out to the town board before the end of the year.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
think,
I mean, just, I appreciate your comments, and I'm not, I gotta digest it and certainly pass it on to people that can walk me through the process with it to see what it looks like. I mean, and that's the truth of the matter. But I just kind of took down everything you said as much as I could, so it gets incorporated into our question and answers that get submitted. And I may call you for a little more definition on what you're trying to, the point is.
No, yeah, and I just think that, listen, it may work out that you're able to create a scheme with the experts here in the town board that doesn't need this to get to the same point, but, this is an area where I think it's almost like a lay of the land. Like you have Chapter 63 to deal with, and you have the mining prohibition to deal with, and then you have this third kind of amorphous thing over there being Chapter 77, which authorizes all sorts of things and puts power within different boards. And you just need to be cognizant while you're setting up the law over here that Chapter 77 isn't just a different avenue to get around the thing you do.
And that, I think, is kind of the best part of this. I don't know, and if we can do it as simply as this and as, kind of curtly as this, but I think defining that this is the only section of the town code that deals with the process is a good way to move forward, so that there isn't manipulation and that it's all really clear in one chapter what the rules are.
Paul, could you do me a favor and not as part of the email body, email that as a Word to me, just the section that you wrote?
Yeah, I can
Thank
do
you.
that.
Does anybody else on the board want to be heard on it? Is anybody in the audience?
I did want to just take the opportunity to say thank you to all of you, and especially to Paul and Maureen and Bill. I know you're leaving. This is it. And I want to thank you for all your efforts. I know your heart is with the town, and I know we've, certainly had our backs and forths, and I appreciate where you've come from the whole way. And
Thank you.
So thank you, and best of luck. And don't forget, if we call on you, we may need some, because you were here for this, so.
Oh, I'm changing my number. It's already out. I called Verizon. They said, we'll
Don't worry, they're not very efficient.
He's moving calling.
You're going to have to change your name, too. So that's it. So best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
good luck to those of you who are staying, and I'll be staying, too. And, I just wanted to address what Paul was saying, because I think it is interesting that I think site preparation got folded into a planning board thing versus the actual law that we have, the code that we have written on soil removal and stuff. And so it kind of, and I would just say maybe as we peel that apart and make sure we keep the channels that we have in place to protect the town, we should also look at blasting as separate from the, quote, mining, because I think what Henry brought up last meeting was really powerful, and I don't want to let that sort of fade away. The idea of the amount of nitrates that were left behind this site here that was blasted is really
Scary.
environmentally scary, and it's a disaster. I went back over the meeting and slowed it down and really listened to what he said, and the EPA has determined that 10 parts per million is an environmental hazard to have that much nitrates in the water, and we have 50 parts per million, and from that blasting site. And not only that, they ran the water for 2 weeks, figuring, that will very often clear it. And, I don't mean to bring it up again, but I think it's worth bringing up again. And it didn't clear it. It was still at that same level. So blasting, we see, is as hazardous, if not more, to pull that out from mining, the same way you're talking about pulling out site preparation and soil removal and stuff. So I think these are all things, I would just like to say. But really, mostly I came up to wish you luck and
Thank
to
you.
thank you for, the back and forth, everything.
Thank you. Well, I feel like we're going in a good direction, and it might have taken longer than we all wanted it to
Well,
take, but I think
COVID put a lot of
COVID did. But
brakes on
I
our
think-
process
I
for a
think
long
this is going to
time.
get done, and I think it's going to get done in a way that people are going to be happy with it.
It's interesting. I think the most important thing when we're all said and done is we need to ask the consultants, with whatever they write, whether it's Paul's short and sweet version or the longer version they're doing or some combination in between, is to make sure that what happened can never happen again the way it did. And that's the answer that we need answered right there. You know, however it's written, the experts have to say, we've closed every loophole to make sure that that type of thing can't happen again.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what got everybody, you know, had their ears perk up for this, is we just can't have a repeat of what happened before. So, all right. Anyone else? Thank you. All right, the last, oh, no, not the last item. We have a contract with Millennium Strategies, LLC. Millennium Strategies is the company that the town retained after interviewing a number of different grant writing companies to write grants for the town. They have been really excellent. They've met with all our town departments, members of the board, our fire departments. They've written a lot of grants. They have regular meetings with us and provide regular reports. So in the budgeting process, the town board did include funding for another year. We have a yearly contract with Millennium. We did put in for the contract, but we actually have to approve the terms of the contract that was submitted. And so that is what is on the agenda for this evening.
Just so you know, I support this 110%. Looking at grants applications approved, funding awarded, $227,142 that we've been awarded. And we have grant applications submitted that are in the significant stages, and if we just get one of those grants, it'd be very good. There's a park grant, the town bridge grants, there's 4 or 5 bridge grants that we've applied for. Highway facilities, if we just score a few. So stay on it, and hope everybody, we get some successes, further successes. Maybe a nice town bridge grant with a significant, for the western side of town would be good too.
Yeah, the regional economic development grants are going to be announced that were applied with the consolidated funding application. We're expecting announcement of those grants within the next couple of weeks.
Good.
So hopefully we make it. We put in for a couple of nice-sized grants. So maybe at the next town board meeting we'll have good news. But they've been doing a great job. Anybody have any comment? Okay.
Let me do it. I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing the renewal contract with Millennium Strategies, whereas the town board of the town of Kent is in receipt of the proposed annual renewal agreement with Millennium Strategies to provide continued grant consulting services to the town, and whereas the town board wishes to renew its agreement with the Millennium with a monthly retainer of $2,500, and now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes and approves the renewal agreement with Millennium Strategies, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary to give effect to this resolution, consistent with the terms hereof, all in form satisfactory to the supervisor and the town attorney if requested. I make this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion to add an item regarding a stipulation of settlement to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion for the town board to approve the supervisor signing a stipulation of settlement by and between the town of Kent and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 456.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was it. for me.
All set. I ask the town board to approve the following vouchers that are over the threshold as of December 7th, 2021. Barney Zipkin, tree service, $12,900. City Carding, $13,295.90 for Lake Carmel garbage. Commissioner of Finance, $3,325.44 for the 2021 assessment tax rolls. Custom Bandag, $3,965.64 for tires. Dew Bend Steel Buildings, $2,900 for Snowjack Recycling Building. Durkin Water, $2,145 for Water District Number 2. Global Montello Group, $4,426.40 for fuel. H.O. Penn, $128,100 for a backhoe. H.O. Penn, $4,796.13 for truck parts. Kevin P. Irwin, $3,528 for a special prosecutor. Medicare reimbursements, $28,999.38 for Medicare reimbursements. Millennium Strategies, $2,250 for grant services. Morton Salt, $19,802.50 for highway salt. Nicomco, $2,846 for two-way radios police. New York State and local retirement system, $1,200,032 for the annual invoice. Northeast Aquatic Research, $3,070 for Lake Tibet. Peckham Materials, $11,354.99 for blacktop. Peckham Materials, $27,067.84 for blacktop. Lauren Roberts, $2,215 for our prosecutor. Royal Carding, $4,517.70 recycling garbage for September. Royal Carding, $6,465.50 recycling garbage for October. Royal Carding, $4,455.95 recycling garbage for the month of November. The State Controller, $41,135 for Justice Court fines and fees. Superior Distributors, $5,853.60 for truck parts. The Seasons Edge Landscaping, $2,504.57 for the Lake Tibet beautification. Toshiba Business Solutions, $2,024.44 for copy machines. And for 2022, Kent Fire District, $495,445 for the 2022 Fire District budget for West Side Kent Fire District. I ask you to approve as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I just have a couple of announcements. I have like a million flyers here from the library for a Metropolitan Museum of Art event, La Boheme, so the Metropolitan is on tomorrow, December 8th, La Boheme, December 9th, Impact Cratering Through the Solar System, December 13th, the Roosevelts at Christmas, December 15th. These are all Zoom events that you need to sign up in advance at the library, or you can call 225-8585 or go to www.kentlibrary.org for more information, but these flyers are all out in the front. I'm not going to read each one individually. And we're having a really exciting event this Saturday at Town Hall, the Star Party. This is from the Kent CAC. We had been trying to do this for years in coordination with the Kent CAC and the Mid-Hudson Astronomical Association. We tried a few summers ago, and the night we were supposed to have it, it was going to be cloudy, and another time it was going to be stormy. So the Kent CAC really picked up the ball, and
This is actually a new organization from years past that they found to do this.
We were going to try to do it with this
Right,
Westchester,
and these
but-
people seem very, very eager to come over here and do this with us, so hopefully it'll be a good partnership in the future.
Wonderful. So, I mean, everybody knows this place is just such a great place to watch look at the stars, because you don't have a lot of tree cover. And So it starts, it's Saturday, December 11th, 5:30 PM. They say to dress warm. Join the Town of Kent Conservation Advisory Committee and the Mid-Hudson Astronomical Association for an evening of stargazing and viewing faraway objects in space through MHAA's member telescopes. If conditions are good, they should be able to give you a good view of the planets and more, star clusters, nebulae, and even distant galaxies. The moon will be at its most desirable for viewing. We can put this up on the website. Please be certain to dress for the weather. Dress like you plan on the temperature being at least 20 degrees colder than you think it will be. You might bring something warm to drink and an additional blanket. During this event, please be mindful. We will be observing dim objects in the dark. We ask that you do not use any white lights near the telescopes. Red lights work great for seeing around the ground and where you are walking, while preserving night vision for everyone viewing the night sky. So come on out. This will be on the website, and it should be a great night. I have two other announcements. As everybody must know by now, the Carmel High School football team won the New York State Class AA championship. And they did that on Saturday, and anybody who was in Eastern Kent certainly heard the fire departments and the police departments escorting them to 84 and meeting them when they came back Saturday night victorious. So obviously the town board wants to congratulate the Carmel High School football team, and there is going to be a parade for them on Saturday, December 11th at 11 a.m. along the shores of Lake Glenida. Our championship team and their boosters will be marching from Reed Memorial Library to the county courthouse, and there they're going to be honored on the steps of the courthouse following the parade. So come on out and cheer the team, because it is the first time that any team from Putnam County won a football championship. So we want to congratulate them. Let's give them a round of applause. They're all watching. And I know somebody that's in the audience that's beaming because he was at the game and gave us a quick report at the tree lighting last night. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, and I'm sure everybody's aware, but I think we have to kind of recognize that today is the 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. And on that day, we lost 2,403 service members and civilians who were killed by the attack on Pearl Harbor, and 1,178 people were injured in the attack. We lost a couple of Navy battleships, the Arizona and the Utah, and 188 aircraft. In 1994, Congress designated today as Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. So I just want, everyone to be aware. I think that it's a night that we, remember not only the tragic incident that took place on that day and the service members lost and injured, but we also, it gives us another opportunity to think about the service of our men and women in the armed services, the veterans, and the current members of the armed services, and the great work they perform for all of us in keeping us free. So that's it for me. It's been 80 years, and I think it's a big event that we need to mark and remember. Anyone else have anything? Public comment? Come on up. You want to tell us about the game, Walter?
Building looks beautiful for the holidays. I was glad to see people come out for our Lake Carmel holiday lighting the other night. Couple of positive comments to leave us with a year. First, on that event, we got in touch with, we couldn't get a menorah that would work, so we got in touch with the rabbi at the Chabad here in Putnam, who quickly came down and was able to provide us with a menorah for the lighting, which was really nice. Next year, we're hoping to have a priest and a rabbi there to come do a blessing and a greeting. So I thought, that was a really nice thing, another good sign here in the community. Secondly, just wanted to say thank you for the continued diligence about, particularly about the Sclafani property. And that, this has been a long time in the making. And my first tour of duty here, I was just thinking about it before, the building's been there since the 70s. So it's no administration's fault or anything like that, but it's long overdue. And I just wanted to point out, and say thank particularly to Councilman Eustace for taking the lead on it, and for Bill Walters as well. Just great example of town working together. And, we take pride in the town. Last thing you want to see is buildings like that on the way in. So I really hope that continues to be worked on, and thank you again for that. Lastly, on the game, so I did go up to the game, and I'm not speechless often, but it was pretty amazing. And the reason I wanted to just say a couple words about it is first, that, it's town of Carmel, town of Kent, same school system. We all grew up with these kids around here. There's one kid in particular, Josh Massey, who's a neighbor of mine, lives right up the street. I coached someone who was in Kent Rec in baseball and basketball, which is probably why he became a good football player. I've been thinking about that. But just to see, last Friday morning, I don't know how many of you might have gone out and seen people on the street. This is stuff you watch like on a TV show and say, that doesn't really happen in America. All along, 52 and 311. It was so moving to see all the trucks out there, the police cars, fire department, just wishing them on. At the game, alumni from all generations are there, kids in the street. And I picked up on this, but I just wanted to share one thing in closing. In fact, one of the fathers of one of the kids that played works for I-95 and did an amazing story. You got to read it. But it ends with this. He says, in closing, after the championship game had ended, my wife Felicia and I were one of the last to leave the Carrier Dome. As we were leaving, we were approached by an employee of the arena. She told us she has been working high school championship games for years and had never seen any group behave with such class. She noted that the students and fans were so responsive to any direction she gave, and stated she had rarely ever seen a group applaud the opposing team during the award ceremony. And she closed by saying, she left us by saying she was going to talk to her management team and use Carmel as a standard for all the schools to follow at New York State championship events moving forward.
Wow.
How about that?
Fantastic.
That's very cool.
Pretty cool, right?
That's very cool.
So, happy
Very nice.
holidays, everybody.
You too, Walt. Anyone else have anything? Okay.
We adjourn?
Can I just, one comment, because I think Lana at least got a call or a question about it. People from, especially the Lake Carmel Park District, are wondering what the follow-up from Hurricane Ida has been, and we have been in contact with FEMA. We've had at least one meeting. We're having another meeting with them next week, and we are working to repair the damages of Ida through the probably long and hard process of dealing with FEMA, but it's in the works, so things will get replaced. It's just going to take a little time, so please have a little patience with that.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else? All right, we made a motion to adjourn. I think I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, everyone, have a good evening. See you on the 21st.